So you just had a knee replacement surgery. Should you go home or should you spend the night in the hospital? That's the question. Hello and welcome back. I'm Adam Rosen. Thanks again for tuning in. In today's video, I want to do something a little different. I tried to create like this outline and what to talk about and what order and show you science, and it was complicated, confusing, and boring. So I just want to talk to you like if we were having a cup of coffee and you said, "Hey, what do you think about outpatient surgery?" So I want to inform you just so you're aware. Realize that this is going to vary depending on the doctor that you see, the city, the state, the area that you live in. Um, if we talk about just definitions, outpatient surgery. So, outpatient surgery, technically, from an insurance standpoint, is one midnight. So, if you have surgery today, spend the night, go home tomorrow, that's still outpatient surgery. Two midnights, it's considered inpatient. And then you can have outpatient same day discharge. So if you go to the hospital or the surgery center and have surgery and go home same day, that's outpatient same day discharge. So there's a difference there. And even in our literature, it's complicated and confusing because same day discharge has been defined differently in studies. So less than 4 hours, less than 6 hours, less than 12 hours, even some studies less than 24 hours is still considered same day discharge. And why did this happen? Like, why did people start leaving hospitals earlier, even the same day? Why did this become an outpatient surgery? Well, surgeries have gotten better, healthcare has gotten better, and insurance companies have had a little bit of a play in controlling what you get as far as healthcare. So even if you have a baby or have a gallbladder out, your hospital stays are much shorter than they were years ago. Now, I've always been a bit of a disruptor, so I've even sort of tried doing things to improve all of these things that people thought were sort of nuts, and I wasn't looking for praise. And these are things that have become sort of standard. So when we started taking 3-day stays and making them 2 and even 1, patients I found in the hospital were like, "Wait, I thought I was staying 3 days," even though we told them in the office and all the paperwork was 1 day. And I had to go through the hospital and actually figure out like where in the pre-op office in the hospital and even in the accounting office where they would say, "Oh, we've, checked your insurance and you're approved for 3 nights." And that was always the last person the patient saw. So they were walking out of the hospital after everything for the day going, "Oh yeah, I can stay for 3 days." But we don't always want people in the hospital if you're healthy because it might lead to increased complications like increased risk of infection. And for a lot of these surgeries, people are up and walking and moving. So if you're eating and drinking, you can do that at home, you can do it in the hospital. In the hospital, we tie you up with an IV bag. And I even started to stop ordering IV fluids because my patients were eating and drinking. And if they were eating and drinking and their blood pressure was stable and their kidneys were fine, they didn't need to be hooked up to a machine. It kind of made them feel like they were sicker than they really were. And even when there were like hurricanes, in the hospitals, they would, give out memos like, "Hey, we're on a shortage of IV fluid bags, so limit this to one per patient unless there's dire medical needs," and explain to patients why it's better for them to drink as opposed to getting fluids in their vein. And the same thing happened with IV pain medicine. Like at one point, there was a shortage, and there were like bullet points of like, these are the things that you should tell patients about. Um, why you're giving them a pill and not an IV pain medicine because it's better for these reasons. But really, there was just a shortage. But those are things that I thought about. Hey, my patients are eating, they can drink water, they're eating, so they can take a pill. Pills also take a little longer to work and then wear off a little bit longer, where shots come and go because you can't get shots at home. But also, what we found is that narcotics caused constipation and dizziness and fuzziness and addiction and didn't really control pain super well. So I started adding in Tylenol and anti-inflammatories like Celebrex and gabapentin as nerve pills. And everybody thought it's crazy, that's polypharmacy. You're going to kill their liver, kill their kidneys. And now that's pretty standard. Like people don't have IV fluids. They don't get IV pain medicine. They use pills. They eat, they drink, and they go home. And even I remember one of my patients was really funny. She was an East Coaster that was to the point, and she said, "Why the hell do I have this damn bag in my?" And she described sort of that spot down there where it really wasn't in that private part; it was in her bladder. But I realized if my patients are walking around the floor with physical therapy, why can't they take 5 steps and go to the bathroom? So we started getting rid of the Foley catheter bags and even blood transfusions, which when I started training, it was normal that if you had one knee, you donated 1 unit of blood, and if you had two knees, you donated 2 units of blood. And when you hit the recovery, we transfused patients. And even if it was your own blood, it caused an inflammatory response that increased the risk of infection. And now, through surgical techniques and medicines that we all use called tranexamic acid, transfusion rates are less than 1%. They're pretty much unheard of. So, again, another reason not to be in a hospital because you don't need IV fluids. You don't need a Foley catheter bag in your bladder. You don't need blood transfusions. You don't need IV pain medicine. The vast majority of people can go home. Now it gets a little bit more complicated. So why did doctors start doing these as outpatients? Well, doctors get paid a very small amount. Currently, it's around $1,100 Medicare rates for doing the surgery and taking care of patients. And if it goes through, there was actually just a cut. I just saw earlier today a proposal of a 10% reduction, which would bring it down to $550. And the vast majority of your hospital bill, whether or not it says 40,000, 80,000, $100,000 goes to the hospital. So doctors started buying up surgery centers. And if they own the surgery center, if you have surgery there, they make money for what's called the facility fee. So if I'm a doctor that owns a surgery center, I could do your surgery at my surgery center, get paid for the surgery, and also collect money for owning the facility as opposed to doing it in the hospital. And what's even more complicated is that the same surgery, the cost is different, even though the surgeon and the equipment treatment is all the same. So, like if you do a carpal tunnel at the surgery center and a carpal tunnel at the hospital, same surgeon, same surgery, same procedure, it might be 3 to 4 times more expensive bill wise in the hospital because it's considered a hospital based procedure. So, in some ways, it's a little cheaper to do it at the surgery center, but if you own it, you collect that money as opposed to giving it to the hospital. Now, also COVID hit. So there were a lot of patients that didn't want to be in hospitals. A lot of hospitals weren't allowing elective surgery, and a lot of hospitals were full of COVID patients. So if you were in pain from arthritis, the option was, hey, look, we can do your surgery, but you got to go home. And a lot of patients did. And as we started to see patients have outpatient knee replacement and outpatient hip replacement surgery and do well, there was sort of a bigger push of doing more and more of these surgeries as an outpatient. Now, who is going to get this done? Well, it depends because if you live in an area where everybody is having outpatient surgery at the surgery center down the street, and all your friends and neighbors have done it, and you just see it as being normal, and your doctor says, okay, come in, you're going to do surgery, and you'll go home in a couple hours. You interpret that as being normal because everybody else is having it done. Whereas if you live in an area where all of your friends are spending nights in the hospital, and then you see a doctor who says, we're going to send you home, it seems a little out of the ordinary. So there's definitely a patient perception thing based on where you live. Are most people doing this as an outpatient same day discharge, or are most people spending the night in the hospital? Because you're probably going to do what the majority of people in your area are doing because that's the standard of care in your area. That's what most people are doing. Now, why might that happen too? So it gets complicated. I know some doctors that work in big hospitals, but transfer all their patients to the hotel next door, and all their physician assistants and nurse practitioners see the patients in the hotel. So it's basically hospital level care, but without the lab and the crappy cafeteria food. It's still considered same day discharge, but they're still cared for at sort of a hospital level of care by doctors and physicians assistants and nurses. And then once they're stable, then they can go home. Now, where we work, and a lot of people that I know that work in bigger healthcare systems, like there's no incentive financially for us to send people home. There is sometimes a little bit more work involved. So if I own a surgery center and I'm collecting more money, I'm hiring more staff because then the therapists are meeting you in your driveway, bringing you into your house for your first therapy session when you go home. I have more nurses that are calling you, that are checking in on your bowel movements and your eating and your nauseousness and your pain and your range of motion. And also someone that's available 24/7 to field those questions when something shows up at 1 in the morning. In hospital settings, that has been basically told that, hey, if you want to do it same day discharge, well, you guys just have to take all that. We're not going to give you money for any more resources. So there's some places where there's not really a big incentive, and if the standard of care, like where we are, it's like 70, 80% spend one night, everybody is just used to that and it works for us and it continues. So I know a lot of big healthcare systems that patients spend the night, where other places where there's more surgery centers, you're going to have an outpatient. Now, is it safe? Yes, for most people. And there are different algorithms that doctors can use that they can plug in information about your health status and different medical conditions and kind of put out a number as to safe or not safe. What we are starting to see though is that older patients and even patients with certain medical conditions like heart disease and kidney disease, which we used to think wasn't safe to do as an outpatient same day discharge, are actually doing fine with these techniques. So when it comes down to, we've already made the decision that you need a knee or hip replacement. Um, and let's say you're not 90 years old with a billion medical problems because you should be spending the night in the hospital. But if you're younger and you're healthier, is it safe to have surgery as what we call same day discharge? Yeah, totally fine for the vast majority of people. What I recommend to people though is that you want to make sure that your surgeon hasn't just decided to go from 2 or 3 day hospital stays to outpatient same day discharge without a change in their practice and protocol. Like you need to make sure that there's a protocol in place for your pain management. You need to make sure that if you have medical problems, that there's a way to address them if there's any problems, whether or not you're calling your cardiologist, primary care doctor, or the orthopedic surgeon or the anesthesiologist. You need to make sure that if you have significant medical problems, that you are able and within close driving distance of an emergency room or hospital. So if something should happen, that you can get there or call 911. You also want to make sure that you have physical therapy set up, that you have all of the equipment that you would need and prescriptions that you need at home prior to going in for surgery. So you're not coming home and not having a walker or pain medicine or an ice machine, or therapy isn't set up for 2 or 3 weeks because it wasn't set up in advance. So those are things that I really stress to patients if you're doing outpatient same day discharge, that you want to make sure that all of those things are taken care of ahead of time. So you have to go to the hospital or surgery center, have surgery, go home, and everything there is already set up for you to use. But you also want to make sure that you have the contact information for the doctor or the doctor's associates that are the backup or on-call people. So when a problem comes up, that you know exactly who to call and who to contact and what to do. So I hope that's answered the question. I know a lot of patients, I get even friends and family like, hey, they're going to do outpatient surgery. Is that safe? Like, should I do that? And why are they going to do that? And this, I hope, just kind of answers some of those questions of why certain doctors are doing it, why it's more common in certain areas of the country. Um, what are the sort of pros and cons versus risks and benefits of that versus staying in the hospital? And maybe it gives you more information or questions that you might bring up at your preoperative visit with your doctor's team about what things are in place for you to safely navigate through the surgery. So thanks for watching. If you enjoy this content, be sure to give it a thumbs up and come back next week for the next video. Not really sure what it'll be yet. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so and click the little notifications bell. It'll update you when the next video comes out. Until next time, stay safe. Thanks for watching. I'm Adam Rosen.